Geno Smith goes from the Seahawks to the Raiders. So that deal goes down. A third-round pick goes back to Seattle. So if you want to hear the full Maller monologue, including the coveted trademarked Maller report card, all that on the Fifth Hour podcast. But knowing we are not fond of Geno Smith, we've been the truth tellers when it comes to Geno Smith. I want to expand the conversation. I'd like to expand the conversation, and I'll explain why here in a minute. As we discussed, the question that I'm going to address for you on the panel is there something about that Geno Smith transaction from the Seahawks to the Raiders that people are missing? All right, so I think there is something. I've got pineapple, International House of Pancakes, and college professor. We will combine all of these things together. We're going to make some peanut butter brittle. That's what we're going to make, peanut butter brittle. All right, so A, to answer the question, yes, obviously there's something going on. It doesn't smell right. It just doesn't. Tom Brady should be getting ripped up and down the radio dial all over social media. I don't get the sense that that's going on. Maybe I'm missing it. This is the GOAT, Goaty McGoat, Tom Brady. Come on, Tom Terrific. At this point, Tom Brady needs floaties. Okay, he needs floaties. The man is drowning as the one calling the shots with the Raiders here. And it's not getting enough attention, and I don't understand why. Tom Brady, in my book, is 0 for 2. 0 for 2 as the de facto Raider GM. He hired one of his college buddies as a sock puppet, but Brady's the one who's making the big decisions there in Vegas. He wanted Ben Johnson. Give me my Johnson. He wanted Ben Johnson from the Lions. From what I understand, Mark Davis was going to keep Antonio Pierce for another year, and Brady said, "No, get rid of Pierce. I can deliver you Ben Johnson." So he got rid of Antonio Pierce, Mark Davis, because Tom Brady said, "I can get you Ben Johnson." So then Ben Johnson said, "Screw you. I'm going to go eat deep dish pizza in Chicago and hang out with Euphemie, and I'm out of here." And so he went off to the Bears. And so the Raiders were left scrambling, and they hired 73-year-old Pete Carroll. Now, I like Pete Carroll. I think he'll do okay, but that's not who Tom Brady wanted. And then the next move, they wanted Matthew Stafford. So Tom Brady took on a clandestine getaway to Montana, which, of course, Brady was embarrassed because Stafford chose not to go to the Raiders, and so had his buddy Ian Rappaport, I believe, spin the story, a former Patriot beat writer. But anyway, that was embarrassing for Brady, and so they have to scramble, and they make the trade for a 34-year-old, mostly career backup, who is the personification of suck, Geno Smith. You're Tom Brady. What are you doing? This is embarrassing, is what it is. Now, you talk about getting the rough end of the pineapple. If you're the Raiders, I mean, my God. And I'm not talking about a pineapple smoothie like Doc Mike used to advocate for back in the day. I mean, wowzers. Tom Brady, and I said this on the monologue I did on the Fifth Hour over the weekend, Tom Brady is giving off vibes like Michael Jordan, and the Raider fan base is in denial about it. Oh, well, give him time. I don't know. Give him more time. He's Tom Brady. He hired the oldest coach in the NFL, who he beat in the Super Bowl, and that coach then picks his quarterback and picks a stiff, an absolute turd burger as the new quarterback of the Raiders. It's unreal. And now, we do know that Pete Carroll's wearing the sneakers in this relationship. Of course, you could say they're silver sneakers, if you know what I mean. And Pete Carroll turned into cronyism. Now, I think there's an ulterior motive that Pete Carroll had also. I was thinking about this as I was cruising in on the long drive from out in the North Woods into the studio here. Isn't this the ultimate FU to Russell Wilson? Right? You know, let me explain. Let me give you my supporting evidence. So Russell Wilson, a lot of his people were like, well, Russ would go out to Vegas and they won a Super Bowl together, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. Well, Pete didn't want anything to do with Russell Wilson. Russ tried to get Pete fired in Seattle. That's the legendary story that Russell Wilson went above Pete Carroll and said, you got to get rid of Pete. He's just not doing it anymore. And so it didn't work, actually, because the Seahawks ended up siding with Pete Carroll before they eventually got rid of him anyway. They got rid of both of them. But remember, Pete stayed, and they got rid of Russell Wilson, traded him to the Denver Broncos. So what's the ultimate payback to Russell Wilson of your Pete Carroll? You double down on Geno Smith, who you had and you know sucks, and you trade for him while Russ is desperately trying to get a starting job somewhere. And yet again, the great payback is a dish served at a Vegas buffet in the name of Geno Smith. And it's not going to work. Geno stinks. He had better players around him in Seattle and was mediocre. He will not have as good talent around him in Vegas. So, and it all goes back to Tom Brady. And I know Tom's going from his house in Miami to the place in Montana to the home in Beverly Hills, but my God, who goofed? I've got to know. All right, now, another quarterback move that caught my attention. The New Orleans Saints, that's a football team, not a good one. They restructured quarterback Derek Carr's contract when no one was paying attention. I don't blame them. So they keep him in the bayou. Derek Carr will make $40 million in 2025 and remain with the team likely through the 2026 season, although that is not guaranteed. So how does this Derek Carr agreement with the Saints look from 30,000 feet up in the sky? So this looks like spitting in the wind. It is a futile act by the New Orleans football team. Another one of these where you scratch your head and say, what are you doing? Like, seriously, what are you doing? Like, the New Orleans front office is running an international house of pancakes. Just like IHOP, they are stacking the flapjacks is what they're doing there. They're stacking one after another. Derek Carr is I say stacking, bad decisions is what they're doing. They're just like pancakes, one after another. But Derek Carr is an established schmendrick. Right? Classic stumble bum Derek Carr. We've seen it year after year after year after year. So by restructuring Carr's salary in 2025, from what I read, they're kicking his salary cap number down the road up to like $69 million in 2026, which maybe they'll spread over a couple years and all that stuff. But they're doubling down on Dum Dum as their quarterback, waist deep in the mud. Waist deep in the mud. In New Orleans. And the thing that is bizarre is it's not like Carr was good with the Saints. He wasn't. He's easily replaceable. So why would you keep the ham and egger? You change coaches. Normally when you change coaches, if you don't have a stud quarterback, you change quarterbacks. One goes with the other. If the coach is changed and the quarterback changes. It's not like Derek Carr's done anything with the Saints other than been like a hemorrhoid that flares up every now and again. And so New Orleans could have gotten, if they want a suck-bag quarterback, they could have gone out and eventually get Kirk Cousins. He'll be like go by Atlanta or Aaron Rodgers. Or if you really want suck, trade for Anthony Richardson from the Colts. He blows. And the Colts are supposedly trying to trade him. Or you want a personification of bad, Danny Jones, Danny Dimes right there. Daniel Jones would be another option. So on and on we go. Now, final thought quickly on this. Some around the NFL truly believed, if you listen to the whispers, that Derek Carr was open to testing the free agent market. But in the end, why did Derek Carr stay in New Orleans rather than shop for a new team? Because remember, that had been planted by Derek Carr's people, that he was going to find a new team and all that stuff. So I would argue that he knows, and the people around Derek Carr know better, that you take the wad of cash right now and let the credit go. You take the cash, let the credit go. And a Carr would have gotten a deal from some other bad team like Cleveland or Tennessee or someone like that. However, it is hard to question the business pedigree of Derek Carr, a guy that has never been anything special his entire career in the NFL. And Carr has the credentials and the qualifications now to become a college professor. He does. What are you talking about? Let me explain. He can now teach a master class that everyone should sign up for on sports racketeering. What Derek Carr has been able to do by being bad at his job is fascinating. It is. And you talk about the Golden Fleece Award, and he's done it now for multiple teams here, the Raiders and the Saints. impersonating an NFL quarterback and laughing all the way to the direct deposit and cashing out and going to the Bahamas somewhere with all that money. Carr's the only player in NFL history to get paid more than $200 million. By the time his deal's done this year, he'll be the only player to get paid more than $200 million and never be part of a single playoff win. Not one. And normally you reward winning and you say, well, that guy got paid a lot of money, but he happened to be in the right place at the right time. They won some games. No. Carr never won a play. Was in one playoff game with the Raiders and has been in New Orleans for a minute and hasn't made the playoffs. And here we are.